Hello. So I've got my Crummy Druid here, and I'm in Stockades, and I'm going to answer a question about rage bars. Then I'm going to move over to my warrior and kind of flesh it out a little bit, make it more useful. So to start with, someone asked for a rage bar that only appears when they're in bear form. Seems like a reasonable enough request. So let's make one of those. So I'm going to start by making a new progress bar, and get rid of the left text. I'm going to leave %p on the right text because that'll show us how much rage we have. And let's see, we'll just make it a little bit wider. It's like 432. And let's see, we don't really need an icon, but I will make that text a bit bigger. It's right here. I guess it's the other text. There we go. And we'll just drag it down a bit. There we go. That's the basic shape of a rage bar that works, and all we need to do is hook it up to something that can trigger it. So under triggers, if we come and select the aura type, we switch that to status, and then for status type we choose power, and we can set it to player here, and we can set power type as well to rage. Now if we hit close, so we have nothing, switch to bear form, we get our rage bar. And see if we just switch to like cat form or something, we can see it goes away, back to bear, and it appears. Simple as that. You can see it's showing up here when we're not really in any form. And so the way we can fix that is to give that a nice name. Come down to the trigger type and just add a trigger, and we will choose to make sure that required for activation is all triggers, and our type is status, and then our status type should come down to stance, form, or aura. Maybe we just put in the appropriate run. Run? It's like I'm an Asian. So we'll choose bear form. And close. There. So now we're in bear form and it appears. And in caster form it goes away. You could make this a little more compelling by adding appropriate load conditions like in combat and player classes, druid. I guess that's pretty good though. Let's just go in bear form, swipe, maul, mangle. There we go. And we leave combat and it goes away. Perfect. So now that that's done, I'm going to hop over my warrior and show how we can make that a little more useful, because I literally know nothing at all about playing a druid. Alright, so here we are on my warrior, and I'm going to set up a similar rage bar to one I just did for my druid, except this one's going to kind of highlight when you have certain amounts of rage, so that you know that you have enough rage to whatever that is, like shield barrier at say 20 rage, and then I'll have it turn to a different color when you have 60 rage and you can use shield block. So let's bring up the weak auras config. I'm just going to make a new progress bar, call it rage. We'll set some load conditions to say in combat, player class, warrior, and talent spec. I think third tier is prot, isn't it? Yep. So that's all good. And now let's set up some display things. Let's not have an icon. I'm going to get rid of the left text, but I'm going to keep the right text just because it shows how much rage we have, so I'm just changing that to a space. The colors are all fine. I'll make the timer font bigger. And something like 400 by 45. We'll just make the Y offset down here a little bit. And so that's good enough for demonstration. So I'll come over to trigger, And once again, we're just going to, strange that I would have one like this already. By the way, trigger number 1. We'll set it to a status trigger. It's a power type, and it'll be on player, power type, rage. So there we go, that should do the job. If we come over to this guy, and see we have some rage, and we're pretty much right where we left off with the druid. So I'm gonna get out of combat here. And let's see what else we can do. I'm going to turn off the in-combat conditions, that's fine. Now if we come under animations and under main, choose custom, we need to give it some sort of duration for animations to run on, so I'm going to set this to just 1 second. And then scroll down to color. And if we come in there, it bounces between this color here and the one set in the display way up at the top. And so that can kind of be useful, obviously not for just this, but what we can do is use a custom function for color that rather than just doing simple gradient or gradient pulse or whatever, we can do our own calculations and set this to any arbitrary color for any reason we like. For example, if our target had less than 20% health, maybe we want our rage bar to turn green as sort of an alert to say, hey, use execute as often as you can or something. I'm going to expand this out, and I'm going to cut and paste in some code and then we'll just walk through it because I don't want you to see me stumbling through writing this. Okay, so the very first line here just says get the rage for the player and store it in something called player rage. So now we can easily address how much rage we have. The second line sets aside red, green, and blue values at 0, 0, 0. So this is black. And by default, that'll be the color of our bar. And then we have a set of if, else statements. And basically what we want to do is work from, there's 2 ways to do it, but I went from highest to lowest because I assume that I'm going to be over my 60% mark more often than I'm not. But you can go from top to bottom or bottom to top. I'm going to go top to bottom and just define the colors. So here, if the player rage is bigger than 60, then red, green, blue is 0, 1, 0. So that's the mix you'd need for bright green. If that's not true, it's going to keep going down. So I'm going to say else if player rage is greater than 20, then set it to 0, 1, 1. And that's a color, I guess cyan would be a good way to describe that. And if it's not bigger than 60 and it's not at least bigger than 20, then it'll go down to this final else block and say, well, in that case, set our color to 1, 0, 0 for red, green, blue. And that's just bright red. So let's go and attack this bad guy up here. And we'll shield slam. And so right when we get to 20 rage, it'll finish being red, and then at 21 it should switch over. And I guess we didn't see it switch there. That's okay. I'm going to battle shout. So it's going to stay cyan all the way through 60. And then we'll see it change color to green, and that's just going to be like an alert for me to know that I can shield slam now. So here's 60, and then at 61, bing, it switches. And then if we shield block or whatever, use up some rage, you can see it goes back to red. And so the nice thing about setting this up that way is that you can just come in here and say, I want some additional ones, like maybe if player rage greater than, let's say 85, then red, green, blue equals 1, 1, 1. And we'll just make this else if. And so just like that, we've added another condition. Now if it's over 85, our bar is going to be bright white. If it's over 60, it's going to be green, and so on. Obviously you can change these values here. I'm saying greater than 60, so if you wanted this to turn to green at 60, you could just put in a 59, right? Because as soon as it's bigger than 59, so 60, 61, 62, etc., it'll switch to this. The other way you could have done it is to say greater than or equal to 60, greater than or equal to 20. And like here we say greater than or equal to 85. And that would have the same basic result. So if we run up and let's go beat up this guy. So battle shout. See, right at 20 it switched for us there. We'll shield slam, like revenge, devastate. And I'm just going to let this tick up. Actually, it's going to be kind of annoying to wait that long, so I'm going to revenge. So it's 60. We've seen it switch again. We'll shield block. Here we are at 80, 81. And so right at 85, this should switch to white. 84, 85. There we go. And we'll use up a bunch of rage and it switches colors back again. And if we blow all of our rage, then we're useless. Perfect, so now we have a nice color changing rage bar, just like that. Anyway, I hope those two things are useful for people who want to use weak auras maybe as part of a custom set of unit frames or something. You can probably do this with OUF easily enough. Other unit frame add-ons are less configurable. They don't give you the ability to just write Lua, so you can't really come in and write your own colors. If you're particularly good at math, you could blend between them, so you could have like a gradient from like green through yellow through whatever, and maybe like a bunch where it's just bright orange, and then have another gradient where it gets more and more red or whatever. Because we're writing our own function to determine the color, you could also incorporate things like make my bar turn green if I have more than 50 rage and my target has less than 20% health, so I can know that maybe I should be executing now and I have lots of rage to do it with, or something like that. That's sort of way beyond the scope of anything I would probably want to make a video about, because it does kind of depend on you knowing how to express your ideas in Lua. Fortunately, the guys at the Weak Auras forums are always very helpful, and I'm somewhat active on the MMO Champion interface and design or UI sub-forum. You know, I'm not promising to make everything for you, but now and then if you post a question, I might stop in and answer. And there are certainly plenty of other clever people who can do the same sort of thing for you. The moderators, for example, are extremely good. And, you know, some of them will help out with a little bit of custom Lua for things like this too. Well, I'm going to go have a pint and then maybe consider building a proper UI for this character. Good luck in the expansion coming out. Cheers.